podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Well, turns out all we need to do is play Chelsea every week. 6-0 aggregate scoreline in the home and away ties in this Premier League. And we're up to 7th. The dream's alive.
Wow, the Premier League table is so compressed. Chelsea in 4th on 41 points. I think you can go all the way down to Burnley in something like 12th on 35 points, is it? Or 34 points. It's
34 and 11th, yep.
Yeah, it's really, really compressed and just a few wins either way. And United in big trouble or getting into contention for the Champions League. I mean, this is a super, super win. An absolutely abysmal game in the first half. I mean, that was a relegation six-pointer all over it. That was just these two teams. You wouldn't, honestly, if you watch that game with no context, you'd be like, oh, these two teams are in big trouble. That's terrible. And United really picked up in the second and then just looked a lot more confident. And Chelsea, strangely toothless, although I guess with your mate, Mitsu Batshuayi up front.
What's his name, sorry? What was that?
Yeah, I completely brutalised it, didn't I? Your mate up front.
Yeah.
Perhaps not surprising they were a bit toothless.
Are you saying Mitsu Batshuayi plays at Stampford Bridge, Ed? Is that what's...
Yeah, oh, bad. You know what? I should stop doing social media because I make one mistake per social media post.
You do them...
It's because I'm rushing it mainly.
Yeah, I feel like you do them early in the morning.
I did a preview for the women's game at the weekend. It's not until next weekend.
It's bad times. Bad times over on NQAT Pod Instagram. What it looked like to me is two teams that are like 35 points off the top of the league playing each other, which of course it is, as Chelsea in fourth.
And in normal seasons, that'd be putting you in a relegation six-pointer.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. Like you said, that Burnley have got 34 points. That is genuinely only just less than the gap between first and fourth. It's an absolutely ridiculous league season. Anyway, the first half was just unwatchable. Just sat there like slightly moody about having to watch it and then do a podcast about it after a long working day. And then, and also all the way through the first half, this is just my agenda being out in the open as if that's a surprise in any way. All the way in the first half, I'm watching Martial, who's playing... Like, they're playing these weird split centre forwards, basically, where they're essentially playing a left winger and a right winger and calling it two up front. And Martial keeps getting the ball literally on his own with no one for miles around him, and he can't do anything. And I'm just waiting, knowing there's going to be so much Martial criticism in a game where he couldn't possibly have done anything. And then he did that fully top draw centre forward work. Absolutely brilliant run across the half.
I'm talking to those forwards. Daniel James was rubbish in this game. I mean, he's been rubbish for months, let's be honest. Nice kid, but he's not done anything to justify being in the team other than he's just alive, I guess, because Mason Greenwood apparently not in Solskjaer's good books at the moment. Can't get a sniff when James is playing so badly, but yeah, Martial had one of those kind of frustrating halves, didn't he? When the flicks didn't come off, the passes didn't come off. At times he's not moving great. At times he is. I mean, it's just look, there were a couple of occasions where he's just standing. He was crouched, hands on both knees at one point. I'm like, what are you doing? Move. I mean, we've now got someone in Bruno Fernandes who can find a pass. I mean, he wasn't really very heavily involved in that first half, but can, and you want to make some space for him. Anyway, so it's pretty frustrating, but then just out of nothing. I mean, let's roll it back a little bit. So Martial did the prep work by doing Rudiger with the pointy elbow. Nice work. And then Christiansen, sorry. And then Wan-Bissaka, nice sort of drag back from. It looked like he was cutting back inside to lay it back, and then just whips over the cross, which is the thing we are wanting him to do.
And he's doing it better.
He's doing it better. He's growing into that as the seasons wore on, and it's just a fine ball. And then Martial's got in front of the defender, and it's a lovely header.
Absolutely. And, I have to say, I get why you might have been frustrated in the first half, but a lot of the stuff I was frustrated by was just the total lack of support that he had, And Fernandes, I thought he didn't have the ball that much, but he definitely looked an absolute cut above when he was on the ball. Just his ability to move the ball sort of insightfully was quite telling. And of course, he looked an absolute cut above in the second half with a couple of cracking set pieces, one after the other. And if it turns out...
What do you mean that Phil Jones can't do that from corners?
If it turns out that Bruno Fernandes is the new David Beckham, I shall be very pleased indeed. Because, and I sent that message to a couple of people just up with the free kick that hit the post.
Right.
And that was literally about a minute before he put in that absolutely brilliant corner, which Maguire, that's the dream, isn't it? Maguire powering in and nodding one into the bottom corner. Absolutely tremendous both goals.
I'm not sure yet that Bruno Fernandes is going to really dominate games in midfield. I mean, he may do. It doesn't seem like he's that kind of player to me. But his quality in the final third, in terms of finding space, finding a pass, and clearly from set pieces, which is not the thing that was talked about him bringing to the club particularly, is great. And he strikes the ball really cleanly from those dead balls or from anywhere around that final third, including that free kick that hit the post. And he's looks like he'll be a good addition, like 2 games. So who knows? Anyway, our other new signing, of course, came on to prove that he won't be a good addition. One great chance, and he blew it. Totally blew it.
Yeah, tough situation to come on. But the dream was alive for that in that moment. The absolute fairy tale scenes were alive. And I have to say, I realised as he toe poked it into the keeper's arms that I may have slightly bought into the dream narrative a little too deeply, because I was entirely convinced he was going to pull out like a really deft looking finish. It's like, oh no, actually, wait a minute, I remember this guy. He's fine. He's fine. He could do some stuff sometimes. Anyway, obviously not the ideal situation to come on in your first game with like 2 minutes left and have a chance fall to you. And the keeper did well to Willy Caballero, not Kepa, who is no longer the keeper. What a weird game of football. So let's talk about Chelsea's 2 VAR'd goals. Obviously, right. The second one's just binary, even though, God, who cares? Oh, the correct decision's been reached. Who cares? Football's so hard, and it's hard to score goals, and the offside rule was not meant for this. This is not what it was meant for. Anyway, that's fine. We all know that. But the Premier League has decided that offside is offside, and it is binary. Sure.
So,
yep.
So there we are. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in recent weeks about introducing some kind of level of tolerance. They took it to the Premier League board. I don't think it was agreed, or they haven't. Maybe it hasn't gone that far yet. I don't really understand the tolerance. Doesn't it just shift the line?
Well, exactly.
I mean, which way would the tolerance go there? So Giroud would have been on because it was about half of his foot that was offside. But 10 centimetre tolerance. How big's his foot?
But if 2/3 of his foot was offside, then he'd be offside. That's all a nonsense. We know this. The first goal, though, I just thought it was straight up weird. At first,
well, it does look like a foul, but who fouled whom first?
Exactly. And so if it's a foul, why isn't it a penalty? If the goal's chalked off, why isn't it a penalty? I mean, first of all, Nemanja Matic has got his arms wrapped around 2 Chelsea players as the move starts. I mean, presumably all the refs saw that when they were looking at the VAR business. And then when it was... Who was it? Was it Christensen that did the shove? I can't remember anyway, one of those Chelsea players. So he's clearly shoved into his shove. Now, he extends the shove with his arms, but he's falling forwards at the point at which he fouls, in inverted commas, Brandon Williams.
Yeah, though I think his shove was significantly bigger than the shove he got. And I don't think he's, like, falling forwards and protecting himself.
No.
He's accidentally. He's trying to shove Brandon Williams. Now, he's got a little bit of help along the way.
Yeah. And I don't know. I thought it was a very strange decision. I was watching it thinking, that's going to be weird if it gets chalked off.
I wasn't surprised it was chalked off because it's clearly a foul. It's just there was so much else going on. The other one that was clearly a foul, of course, was Harry Maguire trying to perform a vasectomy live on Stampford Bridge pitch. Rather unpleasant, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, Stampford Bridge, more like. I mean, he just kicked him in the knackers. Like
he did.
He fully just.
At first, I saw it. I thought, oh, it's an accident. He's trying to protect himself. No, he's just kicked him in the balls.
And as producer Tom said, this only because he's Harry Maguire, England's brave rose, that he's not got sent off for that, because there's nothing about that wasn't a sending off. I mean, they showed, I don't know if it was at halftime or during the thing, they showed the Heung-min Song one on Rudiger as well, by the way. Poor guy. The Heung-min Song one, and it's just like exactly the same, basically. And that was an egregious failing of VAR, I thought, because there's no subtlety or question mark about it. He just extends his leg out to kick him in the knackers.
And he successfully did it as well.
Yeah. One of the two successful shots on target that Harry Maguire managed in that game. One with his head, obviously. I really enjoyed Bruno's set pieces in the second half. It got very feisty, that game. I could understand why Chelsea were frustrated. The bit where Fred was trying to protect Martial from being murdered when he was on the ground was quite good, I thought.
Yeah, look, Chelsea were definitely frustrated. 2 goals chalked off. They didn't feel like they got the decision with Maguire. There was the dive by Willian in the first half, although, I mean, it's a 50-50 one as well. It is a dive, but players are allowed to hurdle an oncoming challenge as well. So you can see why they probably feel a bit aggrieved.
Yeah, no question. And it just did feel like we got the rub of the green all game. But I'll take it. We'd have been 9th if we hadn't won this game.
Yeah, well, 2-0 at Stamford Bridge on 0.66 XG.
How many XG did Chelsea get?
0.89.
Right.
High quality game, folks.
Just very poor chance creation. The ostracism of Olivier Giroud seems very weird to me. But anyway, that's some other podcast's problem.
Yeah, well, yeah. He wanted to go, didn't he? He wanted to go almost anywhere. I mean, it's the Euros in the summer. He's not going to be in the France squad. Coming off the bench now and again, he hasn't played since November or something insane like that.
Have you met Didier Deschamps, by the way? You boldly proclaiming that Olivier Giroud's not going to be in the France squad. We'll see. On verra. But yeah, so what else is there to say about this game? It's a fantastic win. 2 really good goals. Fernandes did well. I thought Fred was lively and good. Daniel James was not very good, but at least he looks fit again. All the players sort of looked somewhat refreshed. I thought you could really see the effect that the break had.
They've had a couple of weeks off,
which is good. It's good. And I was going to say the quality of football will benefit from that, but apparently there's not really any evidence of that.
Well, look, one thing I say is United defended pretty well. I mean, Chelsea were reduced to a lot of little half chances, not too much clear cut, apart from the 2 that got chalked off, of course. But there were a lot of blocks, a couple of absolutely last-ditch, desperate tackles from Wan-Bissaka, and one from, who was it right at the end who got in there as well?
Eric Bailly put on that tackle.
Eric Bailly, yes, and they were celebrating that one because that was awesome.
Yeah, there was one nice tackle from Maguire, and then Eric Bailly proving once and for all that he is the greatest centre back in United's history by stealing the ball off an opposition player in the box, dropping his shoulder, and I think doing about 75% of what you need to do to be called a Cruyff turn in the
Right.
in the box. He is a special, glorious talent, and we should protect him at all costs. Mostly,
Yeah,
it has to be said
mostly,
from himself.
Yeah, I can't remember what his contract situation is. Has he got one more year after this?
No idea. Absolutely no idea.
I can't remember. Yeah, I think maybe that's true. So it'd be interesting to see what United do about that, given his injury record.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, should we take a quick break and then come back and talk about some unbelievably depressing news, some very sad news, and some news which I believe the term Schadenfreude probably covers.
All right, let's do that.
If you want more from us, the people what brought you this here podcast, you can follow us on various social media platforms. Ed is on Twitter at NQATpod. You can find us on Facebook at No Question About That Podcast, formerly United Rant. Cheers, Facebook. Or my personal platform of choice, you can follow us on Instagram at NQATpod. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about the kind of the most... The news that's very sad news, but lots of tributes flooding in today because of the passing of Harry Gregg, and the phrase hero gets bandied around a lot in football terms, and of course legend as well. But Harry Gregg was unquestionably both of those things, a bona fide United great in his time, just a great on the world stage in his time. And of course, a genuine hero as a human being, given his remarkable behaviour after the plane crash.
Yeah, well, neither of us are of the age to remember the '58 crash, but of course we know all about the team that was lost there, and Harry Gregg's role in saving those who might otherwise have perished. You know, diving into a burning plane to pull people out. And went on to play again for United 2 weeks later when the rest of the team was in hospital and United were a club on their knees.
Kept a clean sheet as well. I mean, he always said that he didn't want to be remembered. He wanted to be remembered as a footballer and not a hero, which is perhaps not surprising given the age and the kind of personality profile that you would expect of a person whose activity, whose kind of incredible level of selflessness meant that with all the adrenaline and shock and agony and sadness flowing through his system, he went in multiple times to a burning plane, pulling out multiple survivors, including Bobby Charlton, Jackie Blanchflower, his international teammate, Dennis Violette, and a woman called Vera Lukic, the pregnant wife of a Yugoslav diplomat, and her 2-year-old daughter, Vesna. And it's one of those moments. It's one of those moments where you imagine the reality of that, and just the kind of chaos and confusion and fear, to have the kind of presence of mind, or if not the presence of mind, the instinct, the altruistic instinct to go into action and save people. And there's something about the fact that he's a goalkeeper and never made more valuable saves than that, of course.
Right. And he'd only just transferred to United a couple of months earlier, a world record fee for a keeper at that time. So obviously United thought an awful lot of him, and he was only still just getting to know his teammates. He ended up playing for United in the cup final that year, of course, and I'm sure you've seen. I'm sure it's on YouTube. The footage of that. The kind of challenge from Nat Lofthouse to score one of the goals that would definitely be chalked off by VAR these days.
Yeah, it would. And in terms of his football career, so he kind of stayed at United mostly throughout like the big rebuild after Munich, and left in 1966. He was injured for the 63 cup final, and it was 66, 67 was when we won the league, and he was injured a lot in 64, 65 when we won the league as well, so didn't get to play. But I think probably his crowning achievement as a footballer was a remarkable one. In the Northern Ireland qualified for the 1958 World Cup, and they did absolutely brilliantly. And they got to the quarterfinals of that World Cup in Sweden, which Brazil went on to win. And he was voted the best goalkeeper of the tournament. And that is, that's 6 months, if that, after the Munich air disaster. So genuinely just unbelievable. Northern Ireland, that whole Northern Ireland story is kind of amazing because they lost important players, or players who lost their career rather than their lives, but still lost important players in that Munich air crash. And yeah, but so we thought we should take a moment and probably leave on a football note, given that that's what he wanted to be remembered for. Now, a story which is much murkier and depressing rather than sad, which I feel like treading very lightly around, and not for any like nonsense legal reasons, but because of kind of ignorance really, and not being kind of fully up to speed on it. But this story about Solskjaer and Babacar Sarr and Ben Rumsby in The Telegraph, writing a story that the woman involved in that case said that Solskjaer shouldn't be leading anyone, let alone a team like Manchester United, based on the way he's behaved. What do you know about this story, Ed?
Right. Well, look, no insider information, obviously, but this dates back to a time when Sarr was signed for Molde, and there was an accusation of rape, and he continued to play for Molde under Solskjaer until at some point Sarr's agent, Jim Solbakken, Solskjaer's friend, and a partner in Elite Sports who have just helped United do the deal for Igalo and happened to be the agents of Josh King, all very incestuous, this one, managed to get the player out to Russia during this period of investigation. And I believe the player is now playing in Qatar or Saudi Arabia, another country without an extradition warrant. The player himself was underwent trial. They have this system in Norway where there's one professional judge and two lay judges. He was found not guilty, but was on the balance of probabilities was deemed guilty enough by the professional judge to have to pay a fine. So, Norwegian law clearly allows for this sort of really grey area. And one of the reasons why it doesn't reflect well on Solskjaer is that, although he hasn't really said much about it despite being questioned. But I'm sure he would argue that the player was sort of innocent until proven guilty. He has continued to play a player who's been accused, and it seems, credibly accused of a very, very serious crime. And that doesn't reflect well on Molde, Solbakken, the agent who got the player out, or Solskjaer, the manager who played him.
So one of the really shocking things about this is I believe Sarr captained it's all shocking, but unless I'm mistaken, the thing I read today is that Sarr had captained the club captained the side a couple of times under Solskjaer while all this was going on. And so he was asked about it by the journalist who wrote the article that I mentioned earlier, and he said, I think I can only answer... I'm quoting from, I think, sadly, because this was the transcript I found, from the Daily Mail's coverage of the press conference today. I think I can only answer what I've done through the club. This is a case going through the legal system in Norway. You've got to respect that legal route there. He was then pressed and said, I just answered the reply. I understand how difficult this situation is. You don't want anyone to be in such a situation, and every part involved in that case, they don't have a good time, but that's my answer. Now, I understand that this probably reads even worse than it sounded. And I also understand that it's difficult to find the right language around this. But my God, this is messed up. It's really... ugly and just gross and just sickening, really. The whole thing is just sickening, and the kind of innocent until proven guilty is important as a kind of legal framework, but that's just it just doesn't seem right in a situation like this, that you would put someone in a position where they're an integral member of a team that's I don't mean every player's got to be a role model, but the whole thing, I found it very sickening, and it really soured me on Solskjaer in general, I think.
Well, look, this is, I mean, it's not new, any of this, but the reason why it's very troubling, I think Daniel Harris a couple of weeks ago, the Guardian writer Daniel Harris said this alone could disqualify Solskjaer as being United manager. And I think, in fact, we were talking about this on the previous podcast. It certainly could. And the reason why it hasn't done is, one, either United didn't know about it, didn't do their due diligence, or didn't care, or thought they could get away with it because it wouldn't be covered. But now it has sort of been brought to the fore again, and we're discussing it. It could cause United, who are an extremely conservative organisation, some significant pause for thought. Just putting aside commentary about Solskjaer's performance as a manager, which in normal circumstances would have been enough to get him fired anyway. It may well be that United have a think about this and wonder whether they really want the association with a manager who, it seems, has made some very poor choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's not new. And, I'm quite surprised not to have come across this story before, but it just goes to show how far down the pecking order this kind of story is when it comes to footballers. How quickly, rape is just ignored left, right and centre, and people just want to make jokes about it and don't want to deal with the reality of it, and the whole kind of question of guilty and not guilty, and what a kind of gross mess the whole thing is. So yeah, anyway, I was super bummed out, and I think whether the argument that it could disqualify Solskjaer from being a United manager is one thing. The argument for me is that it should. I think it feels to me like it should. That feels like this is not the world that we should live in. This is not the way that people should behave. There is a broad responsibility, and there's loads of grey area, and I don't know exactly. You could say, okay, but what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and I might not have a good answer for every single one of them, but it doesn't mean that the thing doesn't seem so vile and obvious. Anyway, I'm sure there's more to come from this story. Well, I don't know if I am sure there's more to come from this story, actually.
No, I think people will dig. And Duncan Castles has spoken about it quite a lot. And I just think it's the association. It's not just Solskjaer's decisions and the club's decision at the time, and because a lot of it may well have been out of his hands, but also Solskjaer's association with Jim Solbakken, and the fact that United now doing deals with this guy. It's not very savoury, and for a very conservative club, I'm sure, and conservative or otherwise, it's not savoury. But I just think for United, they are very conscious about their if not conscious about the quality of the product on the pitch, they're very conscious about their image.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we'll hear more.
Another story that we'll hear more from, another story that Patreon backers will hear more from us about anyway, is the Pep Guardiola. It's not Pep Guardiola. It's the Man City FFP thing, which we're going to do bonus content about, but we should just briefly touch on it. They've been banned, and it looks to me like they're going to stay banned from European competition. And CAS have got a bit of a history of trying to get these decisions through quickly so that they don't use the appeal process to delay the effect of the punishment.
Well, especially in high-profile cases like this. So, Yeah, I mean, we are going to go into some depth. What I'd say is this is not the financial side of things. So previously, City got a €49 million sanction for breaching FFP spending regulations. Sort of bog standard FFP. Much of it was suspended, and then they came back into compliance after serving that sanction or paying that fine and serving a year with a smaller squad, as in 2014. This one is for lying to UEFA about that period, 2012 to 2016, and it was uncovered by Football League. This seems hacker João Pinto, who's currently in Portugal facing 147 charges of hacking, but including an awful lot of communications, which was then released to the media, and Der Spiegel a couple of years ago published some really in-depth stuff about it. And they have been caught with their hands in a cookie tin. Let's be clear about this one. They absolutely set about trying to subvert how UEFA could bring them into sanction, bring them into line under FFP. They shifted money around through third parties, both to players in terms of wages and to the club. And 2 years, I think, frankly, for this kind of level of cheating is quite light.
We'll talk a lot more about that in about 20 minutes.
We will.
But
it could have some really big ramifications, both for Pep, as you mentioned, but also for City. I mean, how many players, a story today going around that they've been offered effectively the discount off their wages for not being in the Champions League. They've been offered that as bonuses to stay with the club. But there must be many players thinking, maybe it's time to move on.
Absolutely. And, Pep, you would have thought was kind of questionable anyway. But they didn't so much get caught with their hand in the cookie jar as caught writing a load of emails about how they were planning to steal loads of cookies and then taking photos of themselves with their hands in the cookie jar and pointing at it.
That's right. I mean, they're just so bold and brazen. It's followed up afterwards with a PR campaign, which I have to say is deeply disrespectful of UEFA. And many people listening might go, well, I mean, are UEFA deserving of respect? And it's kind of another question, but they are seeking to, they are, what they're doing is a kind of very Brexity, very Trumpy way of tackling a problem, which is to deny, obfuscate, lie, and flat out lie, I have to say, and we'll come on to some more of that, and just shout and shout and shout and shout. But I don't think that's going to do much good at CAS or the Swiss High Court if they go that far.
My friend Steve Burns saying to me, this is all very, are you taking notes on a criminal conspiracy? I might have cleaned up the language there somewhat. But anyway, we'll talk more about that in the bonus content. Before we take another quick break, there's something that I wanted to put into the show first. And honestly, this is a very abrupt change of tone and direction for what's been a very kind of heavy and serious period of the show. This is easily in my top 3 interviews that we've done since we started doing interviews on this show. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but Lego have brought out an Old Trafford, a Lego Old Trafford set, and it's on its way here in the post right now. It's due to arrive on Wednesday, and it's all I can do not to just cancel everything in my diary for the rest of the week. So I haven't had hands on with it yet, but we'll let you know whether it's good or not. Spoiler warning: I think it's going to be really good. But anyway, we thought it would just be fun to talk to the lead designer. We reached out to Lego to see if this would. I was honestly, this was a massive punt on my part. I just thought, well, I'll send them an email and see what happens. And they were like so cool, and they hooked me up with a chat with their lead designer, Michael Psyche. And honestly, if you basically this conversation went almost exactly as I hoped it would go. At some points we get slightly nerdy about Lego, but generally speaking, it was just lovely to have a chat with somebody who clearly really loves their job and is super passionate about the project. So we're absolutely delighted to be joined by Michael Psyche to chat about the new Lego Old Trafford set, which I know we're quite cynical about a lot of United's brand tie-ins, but we've parked entirely parked our cynicism for this one as like a exception to the rule, because it's Lego and Lego is awesome. Where does a process like this start, Michael? How does it begin?
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for having me on. And I'm glad you guys are excited about the Lego set. It was really, really fun to make. So I'm excited to see people get excited for it as much as we were when we were making it. The process of starting on this model, actually, it's a quite long and convoluted story of how we got here from the very first idea. And it actually just started out as a discussion maybe 3 years ago now of, could Lego do sports? Is it too divisive, or could we do something in the realm of sports? And we're just talking like totally vague now, not even thinking about what sport could we do, how could we do something about that sport, but could we tap into people's passion for sport? And that's where the journey really started with what ended up with the Old Trafford Stadium. And along the way, we got into the idea of stadiums just because there's such a more permanent fixture. You know, I mean, clubs have players come in and clubs have players go out, and guys do great and guys do bad. They have good seasons, they have bad seasons, but the stadium is there hopefully for a long time. And I mean, Old Trafford now is 110 years old. So you can see just from that there's some of these places that have just existed forever and have become such icons of the sport. So we kind of narrowed ourselves down to, okay, let's look at stadiums. And then from there, this is maybe too controversial. I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. But the thing that inspired me the most is I saw a build of Anfield that someone had made. Boo, and I remember, boo, boo, boo. But I saw it and I thought, that's actually a lot cooler than I would have imagined a Lego model of Anfield to be. And it just got me thinking, if Anfield can turn out so cool, then I know we can make something incredible. So that was what got us started on kind of, let's do a big stadium. And from there we started to create a list of, okay, who are the big names. And Manchester United was just immediately on that list from the start. And we just had so much excitement with Manchester United. One of the things that we struggle with is we want to get our products that are out there and appealing to people all over the world. So there's a lot of sports we see that they have huge followings, but it actually gets very localized to either a continent or a country. But Manchester United just seems to transcend all of that. We see fans, we meet fans all over the world that are just so excited about what we've done. So it really was just, the more we thought about it, that was just the perfect model to start with. Not to say that we'll do more. I hope we will, but I'm not allowed to talk about that. So that was how we got down to the idea of, let's make Manchester United, let's make Old Trafford as a Lego set. And then from there, my job was to figure out exactly how do we build it. And the thing I started with, because I think that the pitch is kind of, well, you could say the pitch is a pretty important part of a football stadium, but it's kind of the heart, right? So that's where we started from, working out what will work really well in Lego dimensions, taking the dimensions of what the pitch is at Old Trafford. What will work well when we scale it to Lego dimensions that will be a reasonable size. There are some people that tell us, we should have made it in the scale for minifigures, which I think would be about. Oh,
so you'd have 11 sides on the pitch of the little figures?
Yeah, but I think that would have been about 500,000 Lego bricks.
It's a lot.
We're not. That wasn't really the market that we were going for with this one. So we actually decided to scale it down to being something that's still big and impressive. I don't know. Have you seen the model in person, or have you just seen images of it, or what's?
So by the time this goes out, I hope I'm going to have seen the model in person. I haven't yet.
Okay.
But I've seen pictures, and
well, when you see the model, it's big. It's quite big compared to Lego sets. Most Lego sets, we have almost 4,000 pieces in this one.
Wow.
So you're going to need a serious space to display it, but it's not so big that you lose all hope of ever putting it somewhere in your house. So that was our goal, was we wanted it to be big and impressive that people see it and they go, wow, that's amazing. But we also didn't want people to see it and say, my wife will never let me put that anywhere, or, I'll never have space in my apartment, or whatever it is. We wanted people to feel like this is something that they could achieve and put on display in their home and be proud of it.
So what do you, when you're at the kind of, you've got to the point where you worked out roughly what the scale is going to be, what's the next step in the design process? How do you begin to create something like that out of what, take us right to the beginning of the process in that sense?
So the first thing I did then, once I sorted out that scale, is I took a satellite view of Old Trafford and just printed that out. So I had roughly the layout of how big things would need to be, where the different roof supports would go, and all that. And then I started just by building up a field that would fit in there. And then the first thing that I knew was going to be a real challenge was, how do we capture all of the seats in this place? I guess it's something, I don't remember the exact number. I think it's over 76,000, maybe just below.
Yeah, it's around there.
76,000 seats is a lot.
Yeah.
And one option would be to just make stands that were totally smooth, but we felt like that didn't really capture the scale of Old Trafford very well. So we were looking at, do we make like an individual step of a Lego brick for every row of seats? But when we did that, we ended up with far too few rows of seats in the stadium. And
right.
Even though from afar it would look like Old Trafford and it would look good, when you get up close, you don't get that sense of scale of just how massive of a place this is. So we ended up using, we used a 1x2 profile brick. Sorry, we're really getting into the nerdy details of Lego.
Please, what I do. Feel free to do exactly that.
So we found, we have this classic brick. It's a 1x2 brick that has all these lines, vertical lines on one side. So when we took that brick and rotated it and then used those lines to represent the rows of seats, we create this really, really beautiful look in the stadium that looks like there's rows and rows and rows upon rows of seats, all really, really tiny. And it just does such an incredible job of showing that scale of how big the stadium is. So once we figured that out, then we could build out. So we had the field, then we could build out all of the seats all the way around. And then from there, work out, how do we support these seats? And then how do we build the facades and the roofs and all that? So it was kind of, it was actually a little bit like the real stadium was built, because we start with the field and then we built first tier of seats all the way around, figured out, okay, how do we get that supported? How do we get it all fitting in right? And then we just kept on building up and up and up until we end up with the whole stadium. So it was really fun to make. One of the things that was really challenging with Old Trafford is it doesn't have a lot of symmetry and repetition in the stadium.
Absolutely.
Like even between the east and west ends, the facades are totally different. The sides of them are totally different. And so there was no part of it where I would build something and say, right, I've solved this. I'll just repeat that on the other side. I go to the other side and say, oh, no, now I have a different problem over here. So it made it quite a challenge to design the model, but I think in the end it makes it a lot more fun to build, because every part you're building is really quite unique to that section of the stadium.
Yeah, because of course it's such a higgledy-piggledy sort of stuck together, bolted together stadium, isn't it? It's not designed from scratch to be the size that it is now, and
But I think that's one of the things that's I've been now twice to the stadium. Once as I was working on the model, and another time after that.
Right.
Just kind of go in and look at all the details and understand how all of the different parts connect, and look at what the materials are and the colors. And it reminds me now, my favorite sport is baseball. I grew up in upstate New York cheering for the Yankees. And
right.
The first time I was in Old Trafford, it reminded me a lot of that stadium, just because of the history and like the building on and the way that things change over time and develop. And you still have the old parts with the new built on top. And it was just an incredible feeling to be there and see all that. And I think you can see some stadiums that have been built. You see stadiums that are built, opening in these last couple of years. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And they look beautiful, and they're great to sit in, and they're great to watch a match, but it doesn't have that same feeling of history that you get in a place like Old Trafford. And I think that's one of the reasons it works so well as a Lego model, that it's so iconic and so unique that you really cannot mistake it for anything but what it is.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you're talking about it, I've made a couple of films in my life and documentaries, and whenever you're in the editing suite cutting them together, you feel this odd sense of profound connection to the people whose material you're working on, which is of course just a one-way connection because they don't know it's happening, but it's quite emotional. It feels like maybe you get some of that with the building, a real sense of connection to the place doing something like this.
I hope that people will. Are you saying in the design, or hopefully building this at home?
Well, sure. For people at home, I'm sure too. But I guess a lot of people that are building this will already have a deep sense of connection. I kind of mean in the design process, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Going into making this model, I know quite a bit about Manchester United, but I actually knew nothing about Old Trafford going into the model. And by the time I was done, I just felt like, wow, this is like a home for me now. I know so much about this place, so many of the details, and I have so much appreciation and respect for what this place is and everything that's happened here. It's as not strictly a Manchester United fan, I kind of find it kind of odd that I have this really special connection with this place.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely get it. Do you have a favorite part of the stadium from that experience? Is there something about it that you like in particular?
The thing that's tough. But one of the parts that is really special to me is the supports for the east and west ends. You have these cantilever roofs on the east and west ends.
Yeah.
And I remember that the first time that I visited the stadium, we stayed at the cricket ground that's kind of a bit to the south of Old Trafford. And so the view of the stadium was of the kind of the megastore, that area from the end. So I could just see those cantilevers coming out and coming up to support the roof. And at that point, I had made my first version of the model, and it didn't look anything like that. So I just remember seeing those cantilevers and just thinking, oh man, I have a long way to go. I've really missed the mark here. But I think the end result of what we came to really does a great job of capturing those supports. But then what to me is extra cool about it is they do actually then provide the support for the roof. So they're not just there to look cool and look like the real thing, but they actually function the way that the cantilevers function in the real building.
Yeah, that's got to be
I think
so satisfying.
That's just so fun.
So when you work with a real building in this way, do you do it all from sight and from photographs, or do you get like access to blueprints and design documents and things like that?
We had some blueprints that we worked from when we were making the model, but what helped me the most was when it was January 2019, we visited, and me and one of my coworkers, we just walked around the stadium for a couple hours, and we actually got to have a tour inside as well. And we just took I think we have about 200 photos that we took there. And we just worked from those when making the model, because the blueprint was useful for kind of the top-down plan of how everything came together, but it was really the details of the materials, like the surface finishes, the way that different parts of the stadium came together, that working from photos was really, really helpful for us to get all of that accurate and correct.
So it's really clear hearing you talk about this that you know your kind of passion for this project, but also clearly just the process in general comes really clearly through. But do you have any kind of extra sense of responsibility when you're doing something that people have such a profound emotional connection to?
Oh, I felt just an incredible responsibility with this model to get everything right and make sure that I didn't miss anything. not having that really deep connection with Manchester United of, growing up as a fan or following them through even the last, I'd say I've paid pretty close attention to the club for the past almost 2 years now.
Bad timing. Terrible timing. It would have been so much more fun if you'd done that 10 years ago.
So yeah, I know. But the day will come.
Yeah.
But I felt so nervous to think, okay, I need to make sure that I don't miss anything, that I get everything in here that needs to be here. And then there's one thing just with the significance of the club, but then also, like I said before, there's 110 years of history in that building. That's crazy, that the details of what's important to each individual person when they come to this place. What is it to them that makes Old Trafford special? So I think you could almost see it as an advantage that I'm not coming with my own set of perceptions of here's what's important about Old Trafford to me, and instead just being willing to go out and look and try to figure out what's important about Old Trafford to the people that it's important to. Yeah. So I think that was actually helpful to not come with those preconceived notions of what is it about this place that makes it special. But there were so many things that I was nervous about. Okay, have I done this right? Have we captured enough of this detail? What was the one? There's you have all the turnstile entrances around the stadium, even like inside the Munich tunnel and kind of all behind the concourses and everything. And we made some new printed elements that help us represent those doors. But then I didn't quite have the right numbers in the right places. And I'm just thinking, I don't know if this will be okay. I hope people will forgive me for this. Or what was one of the other ones? I had consulted one of my coworkers he's from Manchester and he's been supporting United his whole life.
Right.
I had him double check because we actually chose some of the banners that hang inside the stadium. And I went through it with him and I said, okay, these are the ones that I'm, through my research, I think are important to include. And he went through and he said, this one keep, this one keep, this one keep, this one get rid of. So it was really great to have that little bit of extra backup. We're also working quite closely with the club itself, and we got some feedback on things to include and things to not include. But then also having that level of my friend Tim, who could come in and point out what was important to him, really helped me to kind of get that perfect vision of here's what the club wants, here's what some fans wants, here's what I think is important. And combining all that, I think we were able to make something really special.
That's brilliant. So I'll let you go in just a minute, but just last couple of questions. So what was the club's involvement? How involved were they in the process?
So they invited us when we first started talking to them about, hey, we think it could be cool to make this Old Trafford model. They invited us over to Manchester to see the stadium and show us around. And then at that point, I actually brought my first version of the stadium along to show to them that I had just made based on pictures I had seen online and some digital files I had found that people had put on the internet. And I remember bringing that and showing that to them in the stadium. And I was actually quite embarrassed because at that point, now I've seen the real thing and I'm looking at the real thing and I'm looking at what I've done and I'm thinking, I've really missed the mark here. But they were also quite understanding to say, okay, you guys are the Lego experts. We're the Manchester United experts. Let's work together. Let's leverage each other's expertise to make this work. So I actually had a lot of free reign on what I could do and where I could make the call and say, this is the right thing to do for this Lego model. But they were really helpful in providing that feedback to say, here are things that we think are important that you need to include. I remember one of the ones was on the south, east and west corners. You have like a red stripe kind of along the top of the outside of the stadium. Yeah. And I was asking like, okay, what color is that meant to be? Because I see it in real life and it looks pretty dark red. Like we have a dark red color in Lego. And I said, that looks a lot like our dark red. And they said, well, we'd like it if it was regular red. I think we just need to repaint it. So there were some things like that where they had a vision of this is how we think the stadium's supposed to look versus how it actually looks.
Yeah,
just working together to find the right common ground there. That was fun.
Brilliant. And I guess the last question is, this is really this is fully Lego rather than United. When you have a set like this, the level of it seems like it's inherently a complex build for people that want to play with it. How do you get how do you decide where you're going to pitch it in terms of the level of complexity? How do you kind of measure up the fun versus accessibility versus accuracy kind of dilemma?
When we first started to talk about let's do this big stadium, we immediately thought, let's make this something that's for like a higher age mark. Normally, what we would call a normal Lego set, we target a child that's somewhere between 6 and 9 years old. But with this one, we knew we want to make it more of like almost an experience for adults. So making it quite a bit more complicated to build and make it something that an adult can build and put on display and be proud of. So that's not to say that a kid can't build it, but we intentionally from the beginning said, let's set the complexity of this thing quite high to make it something that people will, when they build it, they'll really feel, okay, I've had this incredible achievement and I've created this thing that I'm really proud of and I really want to, put it out and show people and talk about it and show them all the intricacies and show them the interior and show them the details. The way the model's built, you can actually split it open so you can take off the north and south stands and you can remove the ends so that you can open the model up and kind of get inside. I was just talking to one of my coworkers about it the other day, and he was telling me, oh yeah, but the big stadiums, they have 3 levels of stands. And I said, yeah, Old Trafford has 3 levels of stands. And he said, no, it doesn't. And then I could, because he just couldn't see all the way up in there. That third stand is so high up.
Yeah.
And so I could open up the Lego model and show him it way up in there. That was so funny to be able to do that.
That is brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait to play with it myself. I think loads of people that's going to be on an awful lot of Christmas lists come next Christmas. And I'm sure people will be picking up before then as well.
That sounds great.
Is there anything that you're working on now that you'd like to kind of get an advance plug for, or is it all super top secret at this point?
Oh, then I would get in big trouble. Well, we never know what we're working on here, but I can't say that we're working on anything, but I'll tell you not to worry. We are having a lot of fun. So
brilliant. I'm glad. Thank you very much for your time, Michael.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Paul.
Okay, so another massive thanks to Michael for coming on the show. We'll take a quick break and then come back with a Club Brugge preview.
Enjoying, no question about that. If so, let others know about us. The best way to do that is leave us a review and a rating on iTunes and hit that subscribe button.
Club Brugge, our old friends.
Have Lego done a Club Brugge stadium yet?
Maybe not. Well, they were very, very sort of quiet about what they could and couldn't talk about in terms of what they were working on next, as you heard.
I'm not sure it's in their roster of high-profile partnerships, to be honest.
Honestly, I enjoyed that conversation so much. I just left it being like, I wish I could be friends with that guy in real life. He seems cool. Anyway,
nice.
Club Brugge.
Yes.
So
the second most successful club in the history of Belgian football.
Who's the first?
Anderlecht.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. Of course they are. They weren't very successful the last time we played them, which, as I think I said when we were drawn against them, is, I mean no disrespect in this, I think literally the last time I thought about them.
Yeah. So what do we know about them? Their manager is Philippe Clement.
Still? Oh, good, he's hanging in there. Unless this is another spell, I'm pretty sure he was the manager last time. It's one of those things where all I remember about these games is writing the preview and having to do the research ahead of time. And there's a listener to the show whose name I can't remember who really helped out with that. A Belgian guy who's a United fan and is local to Club Brugge. They're his local club.
Simon Mignolet is in their squad, former Liverpool keeper. Juan's brother Clinton is part of the squad? No, he's not. Clinton Mata. Yeah. I don't think they're related since this one appears to be from Angola. It seems unlikely.
Yeah, who knows? So this game is at 5-6 on a Thursday afternoon.
Top.
The classic insulting... And it's not like Belgium is in Eastern Europe where that's like a really convenient time zone locally either, is it? I think that means it'll be 5-7 local time in Belgium.
Right.
Not a good time to kick off a football match. And I just can't get invested in this. I guess the question is, does Odion Ighalo start? Is he cup tied? No, he was in... No.
I don't think so.
He's not playing.
Assuming they registered him in time. What he might do, yeah. Ollie has certainly rotated in this tournament earlier in the tournament, and there's no reason to believe that Club Brugge are particularly good. In fact, I mean, given the standard of the Belgian league, they won't be. They'll be bottom half of the Premier League standard. I'm only saying that because I haven't seen them play 1 second this season, but given the league rankings, that'll be about how good they are. So, yeah, he could well do.
Yeah, they are top of the Belgian league at the moment by quite a long way. They've got...
Yeah, which part of the Belgian league, though? It's, there's about 15 different playoff systems totally weird, the Belgian league. But yes, I guess they're in form and top side in Belgium right now. Top analysis, Ed.
Yeah, it's good. Anderlecht are only 9th. Rubbish. I don't know. It's just so hard to talk about the Europa League. It's really late at night here now because we're recording this after the game, so I'm a little bit punchy. And I just can't get Memphis Depay out of my head because he played so well in that game against Bruges at Old Trafford. I think it was at Old Trafford that he played well.
Memphis injured at the moment, isn't he? I mean, this is a complete aside. Yeah, he's got a knee injury. He spends an awful lot of time on Instagram, sort of strolling down streets with some rando recording him while wearing very interesting outfits.
He's very big on motivation, which I like. I'm all for positive motivation and positive mental attitude. But there's just something about the way Memphis does it that just doesn't quite hit the spot for me. He played very well against Club Brugge. Who is going to play well against Club Brugge? You said Mason Greenwood's not in favour with Ole Solskjaer. Is that coming from somewhere, or is it just coming from the team selection?
Just coming from the team selections, yeah. He's not starting in games. Given Daniel James's performance, and given that we played 2 up front today, and James really had no impact, even with United playing on the break. It was all the more surprising that Mason didn't get a go, but he could well do in this one, depends on the system. Ollie seems to be in favour of this 3-5-2 at the moment.
Yeah.
If you can call it that, 5-3-2. Doesn't mean that'll be the way for this game, of course.
I think we should play quite a strong side in this game, I think, because we play Watford at the weekend, then the second fixture against Bruges, and then Everton the following weekend. So it's not... Well, although Everton are going really well under Carlo Ancelotti.
Everton are going really well. Watford are the kind of game that caused United a lot of trouble, especially at Old Trafford. And then after Everton, we've got a big one, I seem to remember.
Yeah, Derby County away in the Wayne Rooney Derby. No, but I think you might be referring to the Manchester Derby that's happening on the 8th of March. So... yeah, some big games coming up, but you'd think, given the rest and everything, and given, I guess one of the things we should have mentioned when we talked about the City thing is it looks very much like 5th place will get you Champions League football next season. So maybe winning the Europa League is not quite so crucial because we could sneak ahead of Sheffield United into 5th place if we try really hard.
Or Everton, or Wolves,
or
because it's pretty packed.
Spurs or Chelsea.
Exactly.
2 from all those teams. Yeah. All right. I'm going to have a go at picking a team. Sergio Romero in goal. Oh, is he not? I heard he might be injured. Anyway, if he's not,
chance for Lee Grant then.
I guess he'll play De Gea instead of Grant if Romero is injured. Then maybe you rest Wan-Bissaka and play Dalot. if you play the back three, I guess he'll play the same back three. Is Lindelof injured? Is that why he's injured?
He wasn't on the bench today, although there is Phil Jones to come into the reckoning.
But I think he clearly likes Luke Shaw in that position, and there's definitely a bit of overlapping centre-back going on, isn't there? And as Shaw and Williams cover each other on the left-hand side. And then I think you play Williams again, if you do play the back three. I guess he's going to have to play Matic and Fred. Maybe he plays Pereira. But I think it might be Matic, Fred and Pereira, and Fernandes doesn't play in this one. Can Fernandes play in this one? Was Sporting in Europe this season?
I think they were, but I think it's wiped out.
Oh, okay.
After the group stages.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That's convenient. I guess then play Bruno, get him more game time, more used to playing with his teammates, and then maybe rotate Martial and play Greenwood, Ighalo, and James.
You've got 12 players in there now.
I don't think I have. I think I counted right. I said no Martial, and then
you swapped our two up front for 3 up front.
But no, did I pick 3 midfielders?
I think you did.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Unless you're going for a pretty radical 5-2-3 formation, which maybe you are, yeah.
So leave out James then and play the devastating front two of Mason Greenwood and Odi and Ighalo.
Maybe so. Yeah, there's not a lot of options in midfield. Although if a round of 32 game against Club Brugge is not a time to give some players a break against ahead of a bunch of tough games. I don't know when is. So Pereira and Mata will come into the reckoning because of that alone.
Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to do a show after that. I'm working in the middle of that game, so I will see the beginning and the end of it. But we'll do our best to cover that game for you, and then preview the Everton game and all that. So that'll do for the show today. A massive thanks to Lego and Michael Psyche for talking to us. And Patreon backers, stay tuned for an absolutely relentless dose of very concerted Manchester City bashing done from the absolute moral high ground.
Absolutely.
And everyone else, we'll see you later in the week.
For that.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.